Tom Downey here once again for the Cowboys Report. We are taking a look at some potential trade candidates for Dallas on today's show. We'll break that down here momentarily, but first it is a new month, so let's reset the NFC East sub-battle. We have a better chance of winning this one since there are preseason games where the audience is better, and it's not just a bunch of people who are already subscribed because we're so large. Let's make sure we beat the Commanders and the Eagles and the Giants. Let's start things out right. Hit that sub button right now. All right, trade candidates. Let's go to the first player on this list, and we'll see if Dallas makes a move or not, but it's Junior Fehoko. Might be in line for a bigger chance at playing time with the Sam Williams injury. I'm also unconvinced Dallas won't add somebody else along that front four, which could potentially push him on the outside looking in and would make him a prime trade candidate. There is the draft capital invested in him that normally means you could find a trade partner potentially. And there's also, of course, Dan Quinn lurking out there. Now, I am curious to see where exactly he plays in the preseason. This is not going to be a trade right now. This is more like a roster cut-down timeline trade. You got Micah, got DeMarcus Lawrence, got Sam Williams. On IR, though, so you had him. Marshawn Nealon will do some DE and DT stuff. Chauncey Golston is doing DE and DT stuff. Micah, Tank, Nealon, Golston over defensive tackle. Osa, Mozzie, at least one of those big guys. I think there's room for Fehoko on this roster. But if you start to add somebody, which I think you should do, I think you should add another player, Fehoko could be on the outside looking in, unless he starts to impress more in camp and in the preseason. How about a dark horse name? How about Donovan Wilson? You'd save some money in the process doing this, and I like him. He's a good football player. I've got a lot of good safeties on this roster. Now, I would probably lean more towards keeping Dono than moving on from him. I think this is an under-the-radar name we should have a conversation about. When he is on, when he is impactful, making plays like he was in 2020, like he was in 2022, like he was at times in 2023, the defense really benefits him. And he benefits the defense. But I've got playmakers at safety. Like Marquise Bell and Wanye Thomas, I kind of want to find more ways to get on the football field. So if trading Donovan Wilson could hypothetically get me a good defensive tackle, I would have to consider that because I have, for the first time, feels like in forever, depth at safety. Now, that's only 4 guys. Maybe it's not the path you want to go. Maybe this becomes a cut candidate this time next year if Marquise Bell breaks out. Had the great pick of Trey. Well, maybe it wasn't a great pick of Trey Lance. Maybe it was just a bad throw by Trey Lance on Wednesday's practice. But I think potentially flipping a safety, given the depth you have, and if somebody else emerges, one of those UDFAs or Sheldrick Redwine probably has to take a big-time step forward to make this even remotely feasible. There's value you could get back in a trade. So will the Cowboys make any trade between now and the start of the regular season? 1 for yes, 0 for no. Next up is Eric Scott Jr. It kind of falls into the Viliami Fehoko category. He's a heavily influenced Dan Quinn pick who didn't play at all last year. Frankly, wasn't great in the preseason. He struggled. He got beat quite a bit, and it's early in camp, so I'm not going to panic about it, but I haven't seen much of Eric Scott. Not like, there's an Eric Scott pass breakup. We've seen Israel Mukuamu make plays. We've seen Deron Bland make a bunch of plays. We've seen Jordan Lewis actually be really good, by the way. We've seen Kalen Carson make plays. All of a sudden, I kind of feel like Eric Scott's cornerback 6 right now. And, maybe he makes a big impact on special teams, but this is a new coaching staff on defense. Yeah, Al Harris is there, sure, but it's Mike Zimmer. And if Mike goes, I want Carson, I want Mukuamu instead, there might not be room for Eric Scott, which would be a huge disappointment, given you traded up to get him, traded a future pick to land him. But you also can't love your guys so much that you pass on the better players in the process. Today's show is made possible by our good friends over at Game Time. Game Time is the only ticketing app that gives you complete peace of mind with your purchase. You can see the view from your seat before you buy. All-in pricing shows your total cost up front, and you can buy tickets in seconds with just 2 taps. The Game Time guarantee means you'll always get the best price. If you find tickets in the same section and row for less, Game Time's going to credit you 110% of the difference. Fantastic deal. Keep an eye out for zone deals, flash deals as well. Great ways to save money. Why spend the maximum amount when you can save a little bit of money to sit in the exact same section? That's what zone deals are so awesome for. Download the Game Time app at gametime.co and use promo code CHATSPORTS. Once you create your account, you'll see the profile, and then you'll see an option to redeem code. Profile on the bottom right, hit redeem code. Type in CHATSPORTS, ChatSports, for $20 off your first purchase. Terms do apply, but again, create that account. Redeem code ChatSports for $20 off. That link will be in the comment section and the description of today's show. It's gametime.co, promo code ChatSports. I'm going to cheat here and name multiple different trade candidates along the offensive line. I got multiple backup linemen that I think stand out here as viable options. You have several players who I think are kind of locked into starting spots, or at least spots on the roster. Hoffman and Beebe will both be on this team, although it might be Hoffman who starts at center, frankly. Guyton, Tyler Smith, Zach Martin, Terrence Steele, TJ Bass. That's 7. That leaves maybe 3 players up for grabs with some combination of Chuma Edoga, Asim Richards, Josh Ball, Matt Waletkzo. You could, if you wanted to maximize your return, you could trade TJ Bass, but I don't want to trade TJ Bass. I think that'd be a mistake. Maybe Earl Bostic suddenly flashes something, or Dakota Shepley emerges, or something weird. There's a lack of talent across the NFL at offensive line. If one of those guys can impress in the preseason and force somebody else off, or you trade that player, again, I will trade a backup. I'll trade Josh Ball for a washing machine at this point. We can have some more paid actors show up to Cowboys camp. I'm kidding. Matt Waletkzo has a draft pick attached to him. Josh Ball does. Like, those guys might have value. I'm kind of don't think it's going to be Josh Ball. Maybe Waletkzo does. And if you can get something back, I think that's actually worth it at that point. So name a player who you want to trade. Remember, Operation White Lie is that Josh Ball has value. So remember to reflect that in the comments. Drop that player name for me in the comments of today's show. I'm not sold on this next name, but I'll put him on here. Peyton Hendershot has flashed at times, and I think is on the outside looking in of Cowboys training camp. Like, he might be tight end 5 when we get to the end of the preseason. Like, there's some movement capabilities. There's been flashes of it, but this team really likes John Stevens. We'll give the nod to Hendershot on the depth chart, which is all unofficial anyway. They like Princeton Fant. They like Spanford as well, who's more of a blocker than Hendershot is. Like, Ferguson's going to be tight end 1. Schoonmaker actually looked pretty good at camp on Wednesday. I think if a team wanted Hendershot, you could get him for a day 3 pick swap, frankly. I'll put both quarterbacks on here, but at the current moment, I find it highly unlikely. Because the only way the Cowboys trade a QB between Lance and Cooper Rush, and we'll count them together, is step 1, Trey Lance has to look good. Because if he doesn't look good, no one's trading for him. And if he looks good, you still run into the issues of, okay, well, maybe you want to keep him. But if he doesn't look good, you're not going to trade Cooper Rush instead, because you don't have a backup quarterback. I don't think there's much interest in Cooper Rush anyway. Like, he is who he is. Ceiling's capped. He's a fine backup. He's not someone you're going to develop into a starting quarterback. That race has been run. He never had the upside, frankly. Anyway, but he can continue to be a good backup QB. Matt Moore spent years in the NFL. Chase Daniel was never a starter. That man made millions of dollars. Josh Johnson keeps finding jobs in the NFL. I think Cooper Rush can be a continuous backup for the next 5 years plus. I have no idea what Trey Lance is. He has not looked good at camp. You have to acknowledge that. Hopefully it changes. Maybe he's a gamer and he balls out in the preseason. Those Cowboys preseason games are going to be on TV nationally. We'll see what happens. It's dicey. So pick one to keep. TL for Trey Lance, CR for Cooper Rush. Go ahead and sound off for me in the comments of today's show. I'll put Deuce Vaughn on here, which does pain me dearly. I also don't know if there'd be much interest. You don't see a ton of 6th-round picks get traded for assets back. But there are too many bodies at running back. You're not going to carry, all 8 of these dudes. There's just no way. Not even on your practice squad. I feel like Zeke's not, no one's trading for Zeke, and you're probably not going to cut him. Dowdle, I don't think anyone's going to trade for him. Freeman's no one's going to trade for him. Davis, Snoop Connor. Like, the only one who, like, frankly, the biggest investment made on this roster is borderline Deuce Vaughn. Like, Elliott's making a little bit more than the vet minimum. Rico, Dowdle, and Freeman are all making the vet minimum. Deuce Vaughn was at least a draft pick. Elliott obviously had way more investment initially. I think Dowdle's got more talent than Deuce Vaughn, but like, he was at least drafted. Now, he wasn't good last year. They're playing him some at wide receiver. I think he was a bit nicked up, by the way, under the radar at Wednesday's practice. But you just got to figure out how you're going to use him, and maybe this isn't the right team to utilize Deuce Vaughn. Maybe I think they view Turpin and Vaughn as like the same player, like in the same bucket, and Turpin's way better. But we'll stay on our small king. So Spam Small, SMOL, in honor of Cowboys stats and graphics, and Deuce Vaughn in the comments of today's show.